So what you can do is you can use what's called cross-collateralization. And we did that on this current project with our first property, our rental property, had a ton of equity in it. And we did a $300,000 lien in third position on that one and a $300,000 lien in second position on this one. And because the reason we had to do that is because no bank would lend on this property because it was under construction. When we bought it, it was half demoed already. So trying to get a second position lien on a house that's half demoed.
Welcome back to the Broke Millionaires, where we document our daily struggles in building wealth while raising a young family. Join us as we talk creative wealth building for everyday people and couples that are struggling in a down economy. I'm Lauryn.
And I'm Joshua Masari, and we'll be your hosts.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How's it going?
Doing all right. Little post Thanksgiving evening.
Yeah.
Kids are, two of the three kids are still at grandparents. So
we are living.
Yeah, we are really living. Cleaned the house. It stayed clean all day. Was able to do a Costco run without the boys fighting over who was sitting in what seat and making a big mess of everything. So,
can you believe we ever thought just one kid was hard? Like now, what a dream that was.
Yeah.
So easy today. Well, tonight we're going to talk about leveraging your property and how to build a portfolio out of your properties.
Yeah, and I want to preface this by saying that the way we do things is not the easy way and may not be the best way. It's certainly not the only way, but it's the path we've chosen, and it's worked for us to build wealth. Maybe
stupidly the path we've chosen.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta believe that it's gonna
still
pay off. But I mean,
jury's still out on that one.
With the way we've done things, it's definitely the economy doesn't help. So when the economy turned in 2022, my business really took a hit and went from making $400,000 a year to $40,000 a year. So it definitely made it harder to carry everything that we're trying to do. We're redoing over the last year. October of 2023, we bought the third house, and we've been finishing or renovating that one from the top to the bottom while finishing the other one that we were still living in.
Yeah, the second house.
And, putting all of our money into these houses. And it's definitely, it wasn't all cash, but we put quite a bit of our own money into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, leveraging the houses to fund these other ones still come with carrying costs. So we've definitely hit rock bottom in terms of cash flow.
We're getting real and raw tonight, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, we are the Broke Millionaires as the name of the podcast, and we have definitely we're cash broke right now. So we are just trying to navigate our way through this. I mean, the motto of this year has been survive till 25. And I hear that a lot. I think it definitely rings true for us.
Yeah, we're not the only ones, that's for sure. But
yeah, I think for us, survive till 25, we finished up the big house.
The second house.
Actually, we just finished it up, 2 months ago?
2 months ago, yeah.
A month and a half ago, the final unit. And so that was a big burden because we were able to start running it fully out, and that was definitely helped. But, we still we're in the hole on that one. So it just I feel like the first couple months were just kind of trying to catch up on debt payments. And then we've got this other one that we're hoping to have finished December, targeting to finish in December. So then we'll be able to start renting that and getting income off of that one. So I think 2025 for us, at least the houses will be hopefully taking care of themselves.
We'll pray that there's a little bit of a weight lifted off our shoulders in 2025.
And I mean, I don't know how we keep getting by.
I don't either.
Every month it's every
literally
other
living
month,
on a prayer.
Go through all of our savings trying to get these houses finished, and then literally have $30 in our savings account, and that's it.
You've had to figure out what groceries to buy on $30 for a family of 5. I can help you out there.
Yeah, we've
'Cause
definitely
we've done it multiple times.
I feel like it's been like that all year, and then
Yeah,
something
it
will
really
come through, and
does.
there'll be a big chunk of change that comes through, whether it's a refinance or some of the stuff we'll talk about. But we'll have a capital event come through, and then we burn through that money pretty quick just in trying to get all of these properties across the finish line. So I will say this is definitely not the easy path. There's definitely a lot of sacrifice involved in what we do, but what we're doing is we're forcing appreciation on these houses. So we're not having to wait until they appreciate. Well, we're getting that as well, but we're pushing appreciation quickly to kind of get us to the next step.
Yeah.
But personally funding these, it's definitely put a toll on our family. And I mean, I think that's
thankfully not our marriage.
It's a testament to us. It
really is.
We're pretty strong, and I think it's kind of made us stronger in a lot of ways. There's been some tears and
from me,
some discussions, and it's definitely not easy. I mean, we didn't even have. So at the beginning of the year, we lost our health insurance with when our daughter was born, October last year, and then the premiums went up. Adding another kid, premiums for 2023, it was almost $3,000 a month
for 2024.
Oh, I'm sorry, for 2024.
Yeah.
It was almost $3,000 a month just for the premiums, which is crazy.
It's crazy.
That's another thing about having, being self-employed. You don't have group insurance. So
much more expensive.
Private insurances. And we didn't have great insurance.
No, it wasn't great. We were still paying a lot out of pocket. Everything was high.
It was a PPO, so we could choose our doctors, but it was kind of like an entry level. It wasn't the top of the line. So so we were without insurance for about 6 months, which was kind of scary, especially with 2 toddler boys that are just nuts and don't get hurt, don't fall, don't.
Talk about being a helicopter mom. I was extra helicopter.
So, but we have insurance now. We started talking about having a 4th kid, and so we're like, we should probably figure this out. And so we were able to get on some discounted plans and just in time.
Literally the day I would have gotten pregnant, I think we looked back and that would have.
Yeah, I think the next month we found out you're pregnant, so it was really good timing. Yeah. Okay. So let's get into this here.
I think before we jump into this too, I think it's important to note that, we have bought all these homes with our own money, right? We've had no help. We've had, this is a big part of why we have this plan in place is, we know so many people that eventually will be inheriting multiple homes, large sums of money, trust fund, whatever it may be. And that's not our reality. And we have done everything on our own by ourselves. And, I think that's kind of a good springboard for.
Yeah. So we didn't have, down payment assistance from any family. So we had to save up and figure that out on the first one and the second one ourselves. And, we don't have a backup plan if all else fails and we lose all these houses and everything just, goes down the toilet. We don't have a fallback inheritance to fall. We have to make it.
Right.
It's a make it or break it, because if we don't build wealth now, we're not going to have anything later in life.
Right. And you obviously are a business owner, so there's no pension that comes with that. There's no retirement or anything that's guaranteed. So that's why we're.
Yeah. So that's why we're going through, putting ourselves through this now, so that we got that security blanket and just know that we're going to be able to live a fruitful life down the road, hopefully sooner than down the road, but there's light at the end of the tunnel and we're getting there. Just a quick disclaimer. The information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Your individual circumstances may differ and require specific strategies not discussed here. Now, let's get back to the show.
All right, let's jump into this. So we are going to talk how to buy your second property without having cash for a down payment.
Yeah, so we talked kind of about, getting financing on your first home, especially as a primary. It's a little easier. But a lot of people will ask, how do you guys, we live in California in Orange County, and I think the median home price is 1.4, 1.5. It's probably somewhere around there. And that's not a nice house. It's a house that needs work. It's just nuts. Mm-hmm. And so people like wonder like how we're not making crazy money. But
this year we're making no money.
Yeah, we're like borderline like poverty, which is
poverty for the number of people in our family.
Which is, in other parts of the country that may not, 40,000 may be a livable wage, but in California, it's certainly not.
No.
Barely buys groceries, and that's about it. But so anyway, there are several ways to leverage your existing home and to get a down payment to help with renovations, whatever is needed. But that is what we've done is we've used properties that we have existing and springboarded those into the next property. The first way, the easiest way, not necessarily the easiest, but the one that I really like, and probably the most common is either a HELOC or a HELOAN. So let's start with a HELOC. What that stands for is home equity line of credit. And basically, you can unlock equity in your home, but not have to pull out on it right away. It's kind of like a credit card. It works like a credit card. So if there's no balance, there's no payment. Mm-hmm. But what they do is they'll get an appraisal of your home. And then this is in addition to your existing mortgage you have. So what they'll do, if it's a primary residence, you can it's a lot easier to get these and they'll lend a lot more. But let's just say, for example, you have a home that's worth $1 million and you go to a credit union for a HELOC and they will do 80% LTV. I think 80%, and LTV is loan to value. So they'll loan a maximum of 80% total of all liens on a property. 80% of $1 million would be 800,000. So we'll use that as our example. But I believe anything over 80%, someone will go like 90 or 95%, but interest rates aren't as good and it's a little higher risk. Yeah. So I've always kept them at 80% or lower, or it might even be like 79.9%. Every credit union is a little different, but we'll use the 80% example. So you have $1 million home, they'll do up to $800,000. So they'll say, okay, we'll lend up to $800,000 minus any existing liens. So let's say you've got a $500,000 lien. You bought this house 4 years ago and, doubled, maybe you put some work into it and doubled in value like we've seen over the last 4 years. That's not uncommon in this market. So you owe $500,000. So they say, okay, $800,000 is what we'll loan up to. And then we're going to subtract the existing lien. So they'll subtract that $500,000 and you've got a remaining $300,000 left. So they will go up to $300,000 on this HELOC. And that doesn't mean you're pulling the money out. That just means it's a credit line that you can use that's secured by the property. So for the banks, it's a lot less risky than a credit card or just a regular line of credit because it's backed by an asset.
Right.
So you get lower rates. Typically, these are right around prime. They're based on prime. So most of them do vary. So they will go up and down based on what the prime rate is. Some of them lock in per quarter. Some of them lock in for a year at a time. Some of them are monthly and they change every single month depending on what the prime rate does.
Yeah.
Some of them, I think the ones that we have I think one of them is prime plus 0.5%. And then another one's like prime minus 5%.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're a little less than prime. Sometimes they're a little more. I think right now, or at least over the last year, they were getting a premium on them. They were like prime plus 2%. So they were a little more expensive. So they're not as attractive now as they were a few years ago, but those rates are coming back down. And I think that'll be a kind of a better product as rates do come down. A lot of them these days, kind of a newer thing they started doing, but a lot of them have an option to lock in a certain amount of money. So let's say you get the loan, the HELOC for $300,000, and you want to pull out $100,000 for renovations or for a down payment on another house, whatever. You can opt to lock in that $100,000 at a fixed rate. So let's just say like it's a low rate environment like a few years ago, and you want to capitalize on that. You can lock that in for the life of the loan. And the way that these loans typically work, if it's on your primary residence, they're typically a 10-year, what they call a 10-year draw period. So you can use it, pull out on it. You make interest-only payments. You can pay it back, pay it down, draw back out on it. It works just like similar to a credit card. But after 10 years, they freeze it, and whatever the balance is at that 10-year mark, it converts to a 20-year note and you have 20 years to start making payments on it. And just whatever amount that is, it's amortized over 20 years.
Right.
And then it pays off. So it's technically like a 30-year loan.
And okay, so for someone who's not super familiar with a HELOC, do you have to use the money on the home?
You can use the money for anything that you want. So they'll ask you what you're using it for. And we've always done renovations with it. So I've always put renovations.
It's always been for the house.
I don't know if it makes a difference on what you put for it. If you say, hey, I'm going to go to Vegas and gamble $300,000.
Yeah, loan officer doesn't want to hear that.
Yeah. So, maybe
it's best if it's
yeah. So, I think they just want to make sure you're being responsible with it. But, once you have the line, then you can go to Vegas.
It's really your money to do whatever you'd like to do with it.
Yeah. So it does come with a payment though. So you got to make your payments.
It's not free money.
It's like anything else, you don't make your payment, then they come after you. So it is technically a second mortgage on the property. So if you ever refinance your home or sell your home, that HELOC gets paid off.
Right.
So if you refinance the first, the HELOC would get paid off, and then you'd have to get another one or whatever, but you would have to refinance that in there unless the second position HELOC was willing to subordinate. I mean, that's a little more technical and deeper, but there are ways to get around that if they're willing to do that. But typically it's going to get paid off and anytime there's an event.
Right.
So HELOCs, I love HELOCs. We've always had HELOCs. We've got some, we've used those to buy properties. So you can pull that money out and use it as a down payment. You can use reserves on your HELOC. So any available money that's in there, you can actually use that for some loans to show reserves. So I know like with Fannie Mae, FHA, those loans, you can say, hey, I've got $100,000 left on this HELOC. Those are my reserve money. And certain bank programs will take that. Not all of them, but they will consider that as reserves because technically you could pull that out and it's cash. But the flip side of that is when you're getting a new loan, they look at a HELOC because it goes on your credit as a mortgage and it shows the full amount.
Right.
So with that $300,000 HELOC, it's going to show a $300,000
it doesn't
mortgage.
Specify how much you actually have drawn on at that point.
Yeah, and so even though your payment is, you may only have $50,000 drawn out on it, and you may have a pretty low payment on that. Most underwriters for mortgages, if you're trying to get a car loan or something else, they just look at what your credit says the payment is currently, what your last month's payment was. But most loan officers know that it's that you can pull that out and that payment will go up. So they will actually factor in your DTI, figuring that
the highest HELOC payment basically
maxed out. So they're going to say, okay, you could draw this out to $300,000. So we're going to calculate your payment based on the $300,000 draw. And because they are variable, they will usually add a factor in there to fluctuate with that by a couple percent or something. So it will affect your DTI a little more than a locked in loan would. Yeah. But they're just so versatile in how you can use it. So, I really like HELOCs. We've done that for down payment, the mix of down payment and renovations. I mean, that's mostly what our HELOCs have gone towards, is just renovating the next home or the current home. You can use it to renovate the current home that you're taking the HELOC out on, or another property that you've acquired. So there's really no limitations on what it needs to be used for. So that's a great tool to be able to do that. The other option is a HELOAN, which is just a home equity loan. I don't like those as much because you can't reuse them, and it's a little better rate and it's fixed. You usually get them for like 20 years, or there's different term lengths, but you got to take out the money. So let's say you're doing use the same example, $300,000. You can take a $300,000 HELOAN, but you got to start making payments day one, and it's principal and you're paying back the loan as a regular 20%. So you're paying back your capital plus the interest. So it's a little higher carrying cost, and it's over 20 years, but it's still a higher cost loan in that term. But you do get a little lower rate. But you got to you're paying on the whole $300,000. So with a HELOC, you may pull out some for a down payment and then do renovations, but you might not do that for 6 months, or you're just doing a little bit here and there and pulling it out as you need it. So you're not actually paying interest until you pull that out. Whereas a HELOAN, you start paying day one. So unless you have something that you're putting the money into right away, a HELOAN doesn't make as much sense, in my opinion. The other thing about a HELOC is you can pay it off too. So if you refinance, you pay it off, then you've got that HELOC freed up to do the same thing and repeat the,
right.
rinse
You can
and
continue
repeat.
to use it.
Yeah, where the HELOAN, once you pay it down, it's just done.
Point.
You just pay it down until it's paid off. You can't draw back out on it.
Yeah, it's done.
So that's like, a HELOC is just so versatile, being able to use it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so another one is an HEA, which is a home equity agreement. There's some different names for it, but there's a handful of banks that started doing this recently, and it's becoming more popular. So a home equity agreement is not a loan, but what you're basically doing is you're selling a portion of your equity in exchange for cash. Mm-hmm. So let's just use the same example. Again, these ratios are a little different, but a home equity agreement might say, okay, we'll loan up to $800,000, or we'll give you up to $800,000 on your $1 million property minus any existing liens. So let's use the example where you had the $500,000 first mortgage. So they're like, okay, there's a $300,000 amount that we'll lend up to, but what they do is they do have an equity, they call it some factor. I'm not sure what they call it, but basically they want to make sure that they're making money. And by the way, there's no payments on these. They just give you the cash. You make no payments. There's no, it's a lien on your house. So you still have a lien, and there's different banks that do it different. Some of them are 10-year, they have a 10-year term. So at the end of 10 years, it's a balloon. You got to pay it off, refinance it. Or, if you sell your home at any time between now and then, they gets paid off. But they don't have it's not like a normal traditional loan.
Right.
So with a home equity agreement, they're taking equity. So they're banking on appreciation. So with that $300,000, they may say, okay, so $300,000 is 30%. We'll give you up to 26% or whatever it is, cash, but we're going to take a 30% lien on your equity. So they're getting that 4% immediate rider. So basically that if the market crashes or goes down, it protects them and gives them a little buffer.
Yeah.
Also, if you don't ride it out for 10 years and they don't capitalize on very much appreciation, they've got that extra 4% or whatever that number is, where if you refinance or sell in a few years, they're able to recoup that. It is more expensive. It's, you're giving up equity, so you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
If your home goes down, their value goes down too. They do have that 4% buffer, but they could actually end up losing money.
Mm-hmm.
We don't.
It's a little riskier for them too.
Yeah. So if you think about a 2008 situation, they would really lose their butt on that. But I think they know or they believe that that's not going to happen again. And I don't think we're going to see a crash like that in the real estate market.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be in other markets, but I think that that's what they believe. So that's why they're willing to take these risky loans.
Right.
But, then again, if there's a boom, interest rates drop and there's a big boom again, they're going to ride that wave and make the money on the equity. So
right.
You are giving up, not all your equity, whatever portion you sell to them, but you are sacrificing that. But if you're taking that and rolling that over to either force appreciation in another house or even that house, you can do it on the house you take the loan out on, and you can actually show that you put the money into the house and what the value increase was, and they'll deduct that. So that way you're not taking that money and giving them appreciation.
Right.
So they do have that, but I don't know exactly
point.
How that works, but I think it's safer putting it into another. I think you're better off renovating the house, forcing appreciation, and knowing that the market's not as hot. And that's when you lock that in on one of those. That kind of makes a little more sense, but it can be a great tool to use to get cash out, especially if you're, if you're not making a lot of money, you don't have it. Here's the thing: you can get one of these loans without a job. You don't need
that's
income.
big.
Yeah, so there's no payments, and they're just looking at the asset. So there are no income requirements. I don't think you have to have a job. Period. It's just,
which is wild.
Yeah, I mean they do have a credit requirement, so you have to have a certain credit level. They do check that, but it's mostly based on the asset, and that's
Now, are these regular banks that are doing this, or credit unions, or where are you finding these home equity agreements?
No, these are specific banks that just specialize in
That's all
these.
they're doing. Okay.
They're probably backed by other banks, but I don't know who on the back end. But their advertising is just regular.
And this is newer,
banks.
like within the last couple of years.
Yeah,
think?
yeah. I just found out about them not that long ago. I mean,
Yeah,
we're doing one right now. So just because of the position we're in, we don't have the income to be able to refinance any of our other mortgages or getting any other loans right now. So the income is a problem for us. So this is kind of a last option resort, and it should be for anybody because it is an expensive loan in terms of what you're giving up.
Yeah.
But we're taking this money and we're putting it we're actually using it to refinance a construction loan on the property we're finishing up now, because that's a balloon that's due coming up early next year. So what we're going to do is take one of these home equity agreements and pay that off, but it's basically just a transfer of equity. So we're taking equity in one home and putting it into another home. So we're not losing any money we're not taking the money and doing something dumb with it, but it's just moving our equity around just to satisfy lenders and make sure that we're continuing to move forward with everything.
This is a really big game of, oh my gosh, Tetris.
Tetris?
I feel like it's a very large Tetris game that we play of like how to leverage things and
to make it even more interesting. So we actually do this a lot.
A lot.
So here's another thing about these home equity agreements. Not all of them will do this, but some of them will do it on an investment property. So you can do it on investment properties as well. And some of them will even do a third position lien on a primary or a investment property. So
which is pretty huge because most
third positions are really hard to get on anything. But so we'll do a first mortgage and have it locked in for 30 years. We've got, one in the threes, one in the twos. This one we haven't gotten into a 30-year yet, but we have a first mortgage that we don't ever want to touch. So we lock that in and just let that ride. We'll get a HELOC to unlock as much equity as possible in second position. And now we're utilizing this home equity agreement to get a third position because we've got so much equity. We can't touch it. It's just dead equity. So we're not able to put it to work for us. So we're able to tap into that a little more, roll it into one of these other properties to keep that going and building equity up there. So it's just, it's like a Tetris game.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, we've kind of said this before, we do things a little differently where we don't plan on ever selling these properties. So I think that's why this is a good option. It's still a last resort option, but it's...
Yeah, so we don't flip. A lot of people think that we're flippers because, and we'll get into this in later episodes on the actual renovations that we're doing and some of the projects we're working on. But we take old homes that are just old, built in the 60s and haven't been touched since the 60s.
Yeah.
And, we'll completely tear it down to the dirt and rebuild it.
Well, not a complete tear down,
Well, pretty close. So the studs are still there, but
studs are there.
This one we went below the dirt level. We went 4 feet below the foundation.
But it's not considered a rebuild or a...
It's a rebuild, but we're not scraping it and building brand new. So, for insurance purposes, they actually consider it a 2024 build because it was completely rebuilt. So when you take it down to the studs, we got all new wiring, all new plumbing, all new sewer lines.
But we're not changing floor plans, maybe
a little bit. We
taking
added
walls down, but we're not, changing the
We're not changing the footprint. Yeah, same square footage, and we're not changing the footprint. We're not completely changing all the wall structure. It's still the same original footprint. So we'll get into that a little later and on how we do that. But right now we're just talking about how you get to that point, how you get that next house without selling the first one.
Right. So,
all right. So the next thing is creative finance. We kind of touched on that a little bit the other day.
The last episode.
Yeah. So
seller financing.
There's a lot of different creative finance options that you can do. There are also private money lenders that will lend in second or third position on like a construction loan or a fix and flip type loan. Those are more hard money loans, so they are expensive. But so what you can do is you can use what's called cross-collateralization, and we did that on this current project with our first property, our rental property, had a ton of equity in it, and we did a $300,000 lien in third position on that one, and a $300,000 lien in second position on this one. And because the reason we had to do that is because no bank would lend on this property because it was under construction. When we bought it, it was half demoed already. So trying to get a second position lien on a house that's half demoed under construction is very difficult.
This property was really needed a very particular buyer. And
because the money was difficult to come by. So the only way to do it, even a hard money lender wasn't going to come in with what we needed on it. So we had
traditional loan wouldn't work.
Yeah, so we had to, because with a traditional, like an institutional lending, you can't get a loan, first, second position, doesn't matter. You can't get a loan when a property's under construction. So they want everything completed, and they want to know that if you miss a payment, they can foreclose and sell it tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But if something's under construction, they can't do that.
Right.
So it's a higher risk loan. But what we had to do to give the lender peace of mind is give them a $300,000 lien on the other property that had a lot of equity in it. Mm-hmm. So that was a really secure position for them. But they were willing to lend on this project with the backing of the other house. And that's how we got that. So it's only a 12-month loan, it has a balloon. And so we've got to refinance that.
And but it was able to. Construction took longer than we anticipated, per usual.
We'll still be done in time within that 12 months. And then once it's done, now we've got options to go with the other banks or different options that we can do because it's a more lendable asset. We're forcing appreciation and it won't be under construction. So it just gives us more options at that point. But, it was an expensive loan, but we had to do what we had to do to get the money to get it to where it's at now. Yeah. And so that was one way of doing that.
Hey guys, if you're finding value or just want to follow along on our journey, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. That would help us tremendously. You can also follow us on Instagram at the Broke Millionaires and be sure to share with your friends. Now let's get back to the show.
Other creative finance would be like seller finance, or even there's other private lenders that just have, maybe they're retired and they've got money in their retirement account or just whatever, and they just want to put it to work. Like there are private individuals that may or may not be actual lenders, licensed lenders, but there are still some ways for private individuals to lend to people. It's different state by state. Some states restrict you on the amount of loans that you can do, but there are people that can just loan private money without being a lender. And there's no stipulations on, they don't have to do a credit check or DTI or worry about anything. It's just like, do they feel comfortable with you?
Yeah.
So it's a little different on getting a loan. It's more like a face-to-face, like just kind of a relationship building. And so that's another way to be able to get funding to get this next house or get your renovations done.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what else do we got?
Loan against your 401k or IRA.
Okay, yeah. So you can actually pull out money. You can do this on your first home and your primary. So this is typically, it's got to be for your primary. Well, actually, hold on, back that up. You can take a loan against your retirement account and use it for anything. So there's some rules that the IRS has, like it has to be written at a certain interest rate. That's whatever the market is. And you can only I think you can borrow it's usually up to 50% of your portfolio value, or there's maximum limits, and different accounts have different maximums. So you have to find out from whoever holds the 401k or IRA what those rules are for that account, because every account is going to be different. But you can actually take out money in a loan form and you make payments back to your retirement account at whatever that rate is. So your retirement account is actually making money. You're getting a low interest loan and you're basically the bank. So you're just, it kind of feels good that you're paying all the interest to yourself. So it's one way to be able to access money for a down payment or for renovations. You can also, I'm not sure what it's called, but you can pull money out of your retirement account for a down payment.
I was going to ask that if that's something that you not suggest necessarily, but is that something that you could do if someone has,
Yeah, that's how I bought the first house. Okay. So my down payment came from the company I worked for had what was called a simple IRA. It was not as good as a 401k, but a little bit beefier than a standard IRA. But I was able to pull out, I think, $10,000 of my down payment. I think that was the max that account allowed at that time. So I
Did
pulled
you have
out
a penalty on that?
So there's no penalty
Okay.
on that. Yeah. So you're able to get around the penalty. You still have, if there's tax liability, you would still have tax liability if it was a deferred account you put into.
Mhm.
So you wouldn't get around that. But the 10% penalty did not apply because I was able to use the primary resident down payment exclusion.
Okay.
So that's another way to be able to.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So if you've got a sizable retirement account and the down payment, you feel comfortable doing that, there are some ways to get that out without the penalty,
Okay.
whether you're doing a loan or just withdrawing the money, an early withdrawal, and using it for that purpose to get that exclusion.
Yeah, definitely. Now, when we're looking for properties, we're pretty specific on the types of properties we're looking for, right? Because we can't have something that has been, flipped or redone in the last, really 10 years, right? Something that's maybe just a little out of style or a little outdated. Like, what are our specifications that we're looking for our properties?
So I wouldn't say there's a specific type of property that we're looking for, but we're looking for properties that have value add. So what can we do to this property to force appreciation? Because we don't want to wait 10 years for this thing to appreciate 30% or whatever. We want to try to push that appreciation right away because we want to tap into that equity and roll it over into the next one. So what we look for is couple things. We do rental properties. We were doing long-term rents, and now we're moving into what's called midterm rentals. So we furnish the houses, include utilities, and it's kind of like an Airbnb, like a vacation rental, but it's for longer periods. So it's 30 days or more. We actually were kind of pushed into that because our city does not allow short-term rentals.
Right.
So you have to rent it for.
They used to. They don't anymore. Yeah. And they were definitely, oh my gosh, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Penalizing.
Yeah. So the city, and then I think it's more the neighbors, but
yeah,
I know a lot of Airbnb, like short-term Airbnb owners that got shut down pretty quick.
Yeah.
So we do what's called midterm rentals. It's still like basically
which
put
is
together
allowed in our city.
Yeah, which is permitted.
Yeah, it's permitted.
It's basically fully furnished, utilities included. So similar to like a short-term rental, traditional short-term rental, it's just 30 days or more, and it's a different market. So we rent to people that are renovating their home, or they're just moving into the city for work, and they need a place for their family for a few months till they figure out where they want to live.
A lot of international, like coming here for work.
Yeah. So we have the studios. We have 3 little studio apartments that we rent out, and those are a lot of international people that are
corporate clients.
Have their corporate headquarters is located here, and they're just coming for a project, or they'll be here on internships and things like that. So we've had a lot of interns. Traveling nurses,
medical
we've had a few
students, yeah.
Those, a lot of medical students, athletes that are training here for the summer, and then people that just, maybe are from out of the country and want to go to California for a few months. And it's a little bit of everybody. So we really started focusing on that because we're getting higher rents. So we have a little more expenses with the utilities, and obviously setting up with the furnishing, it's a lot more work. We still have turnover. You got to get the cleaning crew in there and replenish supplies and do repairs before the next guest checks in. But so far, it's been working really well, and we really like it. So
yeah, and that property we did that with was pretty unique in terms of how it was set up too. It was an easy one to kind of maneuver a little bit, which we'll get into in another episode.
So basically, it was a 2,800 square foot house. Also had a guest house, and we were able to make 4 units out of it. So basically we have 4 rental units that we were able to, or 4 rental listings that we were able to come up with
I remember when you told me about this, how your idea to like section off the house, I was like, he is insane.
So when we first bought the house, I was, because the house was built in 1962, and then like every 10 years the owners added on like another
such a weird layout.
So it was really choppy, and it was like they added on in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s.
It was a terrible layout for our family, and that was part of it.
It was a very choppy house, not very good layout, big house. But I remember when we first bought it, I'm like, we could make this into 4 units. I think we could.
There's no way.
You thought I was crazy, and here we are,
Yeah.
4 years later, we hit 4 units and it's cash cow.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still a little amazed by that one.
Yeah. So that one, we did, that thing was a beast and needed a lot of work, and we completely transformed that property. Originally just transforming it with renovations and just, mostly cosmetic stuff, but just really like changed the face of that and pushed appreciation. Plus we get, it was an appreciation boom. So we also captured a lot on that as well. And we've been able to roll that over into this other project we're doing now. Other ways, by adding other units or finding ways to add ADU, this house right now we're finishing up. We're also looking at how do we get another unit on this property. So we're already thinking about an ADU. Our first property, the next project we'll probably have is going to be that property we already have. We'll probably look to secure funding to add. We're thinking about adding 2 ADUs. It's got a layout that I think would work for adding 2 ADUs to that. So we add that plus the main house. Just it increases the value of the home, but that also increases the cash flow. So we're just forcing more appreciation.
I think too, we've been really surprised with how much attention we weren't really sure going into this what the feedback was going to be, or how often these properties or these units were going to be rented. And we're just seeing that there's such a need for, just what's out there on the market. Like these properties are much nicer and more safe and, just a little bit.
Yeah. When we first started out, we had no idea what to think. We actually just put it on Airbnb and some other sites, with 30 days or more minimum. And we didn't know if it was actually going to rent. And, we were asking for more than we were when we did a 12-month.
It started with the guest house that we had.
Right.
We switched that over. So when we were renting that out, we would get 50 plus people showing up for an open house to see a little studio. What's the square footage on that one? It's like 300?
380, I think.
Yeah. And we would get a line down around our neighborhood.
And this was for regular unfurnished.
This was we were
just doing month to month. Yeah, before we had furnished it and built out a little kitchenette.
Yeah.
And we decided to renovate it and make it a little nicer and furnish it and try this midterm thing. And we got it rented like almost immediately after we posted it.
Oh, if that one's had any vacancies.
It wasn't even ready. So we're like, oh shoot, we got to get this ready. And so
we'll get into that too. Our timing has been down to the wire on just about everything.
Yeah, but just being able to build value in something and force that appreciation, knowing that we're going to be able to pull that out and roll that into the next one. So we just look for value add properties. It could be renovations. It could be, can you add another unit? Can you add square footage? Whatever that may be. But we just look for ways to add value and push that quickly so that we can capture that and roll that over again.
Yeah.
All right. So what else we got?
I think...
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I want to reiterate that this is not the easy way of doing things. Getting 1, 2, and 3 liens on a property is not easy. I think, especially for us with... being self-employed, it makes it a lot more difficult to get loans on properties. When you're trying to get a HELOC, it's an institutional loan, and so they factor in your DTI, but you've got the first mortgage you got to cover, and then all your other bills, and then this other mortgage you're trying to add on the top of it. So if you're self-employed and you have a lot of depreciation and write-offs, and you have your adjusted gross income low so that you're paying lower taxes, that's great, but that's going to hurt you when you try to get one of these loans. And then you try to get add backs like this is depreciation. For me, my business has always put a lot of money into the 401k. It's funded by my business. And so it's always a battle trying to get that added back in, because normally your employee contributions are added back in, but your employer contributions are not, because that comes from your employer, not you. But since I happen to be the employer, for me, I want to get those employer contributions added back in because that's voluntary. I don't have to do that. It's my own company, my own money, and I'm the only person on the 401k unless I add you, but it's just us. So it's always been a battle trying to get some of that stuff added back in.
Yeah.
And I think what I've learned is when you've got a situation like that where you're self-employed and it's a complicated income situation, you can't take no for an answer. I mean, I think the last HELOC that we did, I think they declined my application like 12 or 13 times. And this was over like
insane.
It was like a 4 or 5 month process. So talk about not easy.
Just kept saying no, like you're missing things. Yeah. This is what you need to be looking at.
And I just ran up the ladder. I need to talk to your manager. I need, take this up. Like, you're not reading this right. I need to talk to the loan officer or the underwriter. And of course, they don't let you talk to underwriters. But
And this is where we said in our last episode, like, this is where we are a complicated situation. So no one wants to deal with it.
And I don't think we're the only ones like this.
No.
I think most self-employed people have to deal with this to some extent.
Yeah, a lot of our friends that are self-employed are dealing with similar situations.
So, but it's just a matter of like
being persistent
being persistent, staying on top of them, and not taking no for an answer. Because just because your loan application is denied doesn't mean it's the end of the road. Like I think it is for most people. They just think, oh, well, I got denied. It's just like, end of the road. Like, no, you can say no and you can ask for an explanation and say, hey, like, we need to talk about this. And what I'll do is I'll get them on the phone and be like, go over the DTI. What income are you using? What debt are you using? Right. And I'll calculate the DTI on the fly with them on the phone and be like, hey, you're missing this and you're missing that. Where's this add back? And you just got to be persistent. And you can't just say no. Like, you can't take no for an answer if you don't have backup.
Right.
If you don't have a legitimate reason why you're coming back and being like, hey, no, this is income. This is depreciation should be added back in because it's not a true expense. Like, you can usually get them to add back in depreciation. But you gotta at least have a fight. You gotta have a valid reason that you're coming back. But after like 12 or 13 declines, they finally came back and said, I can't remember what the original loan amount was for. I
don't even remember.
The loan officer that took my application said, well, the value of the home, like, why don't you just apply for $500,000? I was like, all right, that sounds good. And I was just trying to get as much as I could. I was like, I didn't expect to get that much. And at the end of the day, they came back and said, well, because of your income and what we were able to use for your income, this is the decline reason. I said, why was it decline now? After we worked out all these other things, they said, well, we couldn't do the $500,000. They said the most they could do is $465,000. So we just declined it. I'm like, whoa.
Hold up.
Where's my counteroffer for the $465,000? I'll take it. Like, why was this
that
decline?
was weird that they didn't counter.
Yeah, I think they were just tired of just trying to get me to go away. But I'm like, no, like I didn't think I thought I was going to get $300,000. So I was super happy about that.
Which is wild at that point because of all the work they had put into it. You would think they would want to like get paid on that. I mean, that was a lot of work that they did.
Anyway, so we got the 465 and I was like, send it over. I'll sign it right now.
Yeah, done.
And so it was just, it was, but it took a lot of no's and me saying no to their no's to get to that yes. So you just got to be persistent. And if you're in a situation like that with a business that's more complicated, just because it's declined, like don't give up on it.
That's actually a good point about the DTI. So having multiple rental properties, how does that affect your DTI?
That's a good question. Okay, so a lot of people, when they haven't dealt with this before, they don't maybe understand how the rental property comes into play. So if you have a rental property and you're trying to apply for a loan, and you have a loan on that rental property, that loan does not go against your DTI. It's actually offset by the income. So let's say you have a property that has a $2,000 mortgage payment, but you're renting it out for $24,000. And say the $2,000 includes taxes, insurance, PITI. So it includes your taxes, principal, interest, taxes, insurance. So it's everything. And you're renting out for $2,400. So there's $400 of additional cash flow after you paying that mortgage each month. So when the bank looks at it, they say, okay, so this is a rental property. You've got a $2,000 mortgage against this, but you're bringing in $2,400. So we're going to exclude this loan from your DTI. So they actually take that out of that calculation altogether. It's omitted from your DTI calculation, and they calculate your personal DTI without that property in there. So the $400 extra, though, the nice thing is that $400 extra cash flow actually gets added into your income and actually helps your DTI.
Okay.
So I've run into underwriters or loan officers, I'm not sure who was making this decision, but I've run into banks that were trying to keep that rental property loan in my DTI, but they're like, well, you're getting the $2,400 added into your income, so it offsets it. I'm like, no, because if that happens, that is not how it should work, and it does not work out the same because your DTI is going to be severely decreased because of the ratio. You want that completely omitted out of the equation, and then you'll take the $400 onto your income, but you don't want that loan being calculated into your DTI period. So it's important to make sure that they are omitting that out of their calculations, and they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And if you fight that, you know, if it gets up the ladder, they'll know that they should be taking that out. But I have had them try to keep that in, and I was very clear that that's not okay.
Yeah.
Because it's actually bringing my DTI down. So that made a big difference when they actually started calculating it properly, and I was able to get the approval on whatever loan this was that I was working on. So
I think that's a big part of, you know, when we say this isn't easy, it's you have to be persistent. Like that's really what it.
Not even that, but you need to be educated, because
yes,
I feel like when I'm doing these loans, a lot of the times, you know, not to be disrespectful to loan officers, but I feel like sometimes.
I mean, I was a loan officer and I learned things from you all the time. Like there's.
I feel like I know some of these things because they don't see it every day. It's not
and
it's
outside,
in the box.
Again, it's outside of the box.
So that's not something it's not their fault. It's just not something that they deal with.
It's not what you learn. It's not
So when I tell them that, they're like, "Oh, don't," you know. Usually when the customer is talking something like that, they're probably wrong, but I know that that's not supposed to be calculated in there. So I'd be like, hey, take this. A lot of times I will write an email and I'll tell them, copy and paste this and send it to the underwriter and see what they say. And then they'll come back and be like, oh, you were right. So you need to be educated on how it works. And you got to be respectful too, because you can't call somebody an idiot and tell them, hey, figure this out.
Yes, because coming from a loan officer, then I do not want to work with you.
So you got to play nice guy, but you got to get the point across and try to educate them because they relay everything to the underwriter, because you're not allowed to. I feel like underwriters are like the Wizard of Oz. Like
They're behind this magical
behind
screen.
the curtain
like,
or whatever.
Even for a loan officer, like you couldn't have too much.
You can't have direct. And I don't.
There was no direct communication. Like,
right.
It's
so
crazy.
I have a buddy of mine, an investor friend of mine, and I have this theory that the loan underwriters don't actually exist, because no one's ever seen. Have you ever seen a loan underwriter? No, they don't exist.
I see their photos on.
But have you ever seen them? They could have just pulled that off the internet. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Do loan underwriters? I've never met. I've let lots of loan officers.
I have actually spoken to them. There were a couple situations where I had to talk directly to them, but it took a lot to get to that point, and it was not easy.
But did you actually meet them face to face? What if it was AI?
No, I was always remote.
It could have been AI. You don't know. Maybe they don't exist. Anyway.
Maybe. Wizard of Oz.
Underwriters. They hold so much power too. It's just
they really do.
But they hold the power because they're behind the curtain. It's like the Wizard of Oz. Like they come out from behind the curtain and they're just this little, short old guy, and all of a sudden they lose their power.
So funny.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, so the point being on this is not easy. You will bleed, you will sweat, you will cry, and you will cry some more. This is not an easy game to play, but it works.
Yeah.
It is one way of building wealth, and
it's not you have kind of like a twisted mind when it comes to fun. Would you say this is a fun way?
I enjoy it.
So he enjoys it. I can't say I enjoy it. I would say that
you like the wealth, you like spending money, so you like that part of it.
I do, but this point of being so broke is extremely hard.
This is the iceberg below the water.
Yeah,
this is
we talked about
what people don't ever talk about. It's the 2/3 of the iceberg, or the 3/4 of the iceberg that's below the surface of the water,
right?
So that you can see the tip. Like, people don't talk about going through all this.
No, because like we kind of touched on, people see like how many homes we have and these out of state properties too, and they think like, oh, they must just be doing so well, and that's where it's just so.
Yeah, and we talk about these 3 properties, but this is just 3 properties that we have within a mile of each other.
Yeah.
So these are not second homes or like out of state. This is just right here, but we've got properties. We've got a portfolio in South Carolina. We've got properties in Texas. We've got an apartment building in Texas. Like, we've got other investments, and there's other ones that other syndications we've done, and we've kind of got our hand in a lot of different areas. But the ones that are right here in Costa Mesa are the ones that people around here know about, and so it's a lot harder to get properties here. So if we were doing this in another market, so if somebody's in another market that you can get cheap, like we lived in South Carolina or Texas, we'd probably have 10 times the amount of properties with what we're doing, because the dollar value on them is so much lower, but that just the amount that you have to save up for
Yeah.
You're not getting as much equity gain on them. But getting your first one and just getting the down payment together is a lot easier. So we're definitely doing this in a difficult market, but it is in a high appreciation market. So we're able to force that appreciation, take the appreciation on just natural appreciation, and utilize that. So it's kind of you're giving up one thing for another. It's harder to get into, but once you get into them, you have higher numbers to be able to leverage and play with.
I think people think we're crazy sometimes.
Well, I think they're right.
Yeah.
I think there's some truth to that. I wouldn't disagree.
That's very true. I mean, for all the I mean, I think too, like, this is something I hear a lot is like, a renovation is enough to like make a couple get divorced. It's so hard to like go through a renovation with your spouse, but that's not something that's been challenging for us. And I think it's,
and we're doing this with three kids,
with three kids that are under 5. They're, we've most of the time lived through the renovations, this one, not as much.
And we're not putting our kids through like nightmare hellish situations.
Like, love it.
They love working on the house every weekend.
Daddy is like
they have all their own tools, their own hard hats, and they put their safety goggles on and their ear
That's probably why it takes us so long.
I know it slows me down, but they love it. Like, if they don't get to work on the house, like their grandma and grandpa's right now, and they knew I was working on the house today, and they were like, save some work for us. We want to work on the house too.
There's plenty of work. Don't worry, guy.
Yeah. So they I mean, this is all they've known since they were babies. Like,
I mean, our 4.5-year-old talks about foundations all the time. He knows, he's like, this terminology of building homes and how things work. I mean, I've learned things on how things are put together, and
there's masking tape, like blue painter's tape all over his room, and he's got like tape measure, and he'll mark. And I mean, these kids, they probably think that this is normal. So anybody that doesn't go through this, like, oh, what, you didn't live through renovation?
Just
like,
move into a house.
They're like, what, really? Like, boring. You just live in and you just,
But yeah, I think, going through the renovations with the kids being so young, with us putting the financial strain that we're doing, like, any one of those things can be very hard on a marriage. And I think, like we said earlier, it's just a testament to us, and kind of, this is a goal we talked about granted, didn't realize it was going to be this hard when we kind of first started talking about this, but we're both able to see what that end goal looks like. And I think that that's a big reason of why.
Yeah, I think next year it'll be, survive to 25. I think we get there, it's going to be easier because we'll have these 3 projects that are completed and cash flowing and covering themselves. And I think it's going to get a lot easier.
My advice would be, make sure you have a strong foundation in your marriage before you take something
you don't want
to
take something like this on thinking it's going to fix your marriage, because it's probably not going to work. It's like, when people are having trouble and they decide to have a kid because they think it's going to make things better. I feel like that's not a good idea.
No.
So don't take this on thinking it's going to bring you closer together, because that's not. So one more thing I just want to add in there, like, we renovate homes with an equity building budget. So what I mean by that is, when we're doing, we do very nice renovations, but we are looking for things that are going to push appreciation and be budget friendly versus something that's maybe a personal preference or an emotional decision. We're not importing our countertops or marble from Italy because it means so much to us. We don't really care. I mean, we build with rental properties in mind. So every project we do, whether we live in it or not, we're always, we're not flipping. We're doing this with rental. So we spend more than maybe some flippers do, because I think a flipping budget is just make it look pretty and turn it and burn it.
Mm-hmm.
But we rent our properties, so we do want them to withstand, getting beat up. We want them to be tenant. What do you call, like, tenant proof? Tenant proof. Yeah. So
as much as you can.
Yeah. So we do higher quality finishes and things that are going to withstand, rental properties and accidents and things like that a little better, but we're not going overboard. We're finding the stuff that looks nice.
We'll have to do a whole episode on this, because of just like how we're able to source things and
just how we manage it. We're not hiring a general contractor to do everything for us. He's
the general contractor, and I'm a designer, and We just kind of...
So we find ways to cut, not cut corners, but to cut costs, but still get the same result and the nice looking result. And we'll get into more of that.
And making sure we're keeping it somewhat timeless too is something that's really important.
Yeah.
We're not doing things that are super trendy.
Right.
I've, as hard as it is,
I've had to reel you back in on that.
You have had to reel me in on that.
I've given you a little more freedom, like to kind of do some of that stuff because it helps market it as a rental. But at the same time, like we don't want to have to rip out the bathroom in 3 years because it was so trendy that nobody wants that anymore.
Exactly. So we're still trying to do things that are semi-neutral color schemes, things that we can, we keep in mind that if we need to change it down the road, it'll be easy things to update.
And some of the things we do spend more money on are things that make the house more efficient because we are getting into these midterm rentals. We are paying utilities. Mm-hmm. So we'll spend more money on a central HVAC that's going to be more cost efficient to run. Whereas like a flipper mentality is just put a brand new AC in it and call it good. Right. But we want the one that's more expensive because it's going to be a lot more cost effective to run because we're paying that bill. So there are some things that we got to kind of pick and choose on what we're spending money on.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely. Anything else you want to add?
I think that's it. I can talk about this stuff forever, but we gotta cut it off.
What is your book recommendation for
So
tonight?
I'm gonna go back to the one I did in the last episode because this is kind of a continuation. I feel like this is like a part 2 to this type of investing. So I looked it up because I couldn't remember the exact name of the book, and the book is an entire paragraph long, which is so again, this is by Brandon Turner, was one of the original founders of the Bigger Pockets podcast. The book is called The Book on Investing in Real Estate with No and Low Money Down. It's the entire name of the book.
I feel like I remember hearing him say that on an episode.
Well, he says that on every single episode. For like the first 100 episodes,
my gosh,
he would
this
push
is the longest, weirdest title.
But anyway, it goes into some of these different ways of creatively like buying a house without money down or with low money down. Leveraging one house into another, and kind of goes into more depth on some of that stuff. So that's a good one. And I'm going to throw in the word, the phrase, the summary phrase for the year is going to be survive till 25, because that is our motto. We're just trying to get...
We're a month away.
We're a month away. We are hoping and praying that things will get better, but we do believe that it will. So we just need to make it to 25 without completely face planning. So hopefully we can figure that out. Anyway, that's it for tonight.
Join us and see how we
see if we make it. Yeah. All right. Signing off for the night.
Have a good night. Thanks for listening. This has been a production of Rebuilding the Dream Studios.